Rigetti stock is made up of one of the most influential quantum computing companies in the world, and it's been getting a lot of eyeballs and traction over the last few months. Let's take a look at how it's evolved here in 2025. As we start to look at some of the opportunities that can present themselves in this quarter two, we're about 7 days away from the next quarter, and this is where things start to potentially heat up. So take a look here at Rigetti stock over the last basically year. There's a lot of history that we can look at, but also there's some other indicators that would maybe indicate that there's some upside for Rigetti. Now, of course, they don't see a lot of revenue. The financials don't look as dandy as people would like them to look. But when you look at some of the institutional investors and you see Nvidia backing them and you see BlackRock and State Street, there's a reason they're looking at this quantum computing company. And not only that, you see where it is right now. This is the kind of trend that's kind of developing. You see this kind of uptrend starting to build momentum. That's one trend. But also the overall downsell that we saw from the events that happened in mid-January, where it sold off after surging from $1 up to $21, is this event with Jensen, where he made an announcement that quantum computing might be further away. Then it recovered, sold back down, and it's still back down here around $8.70. So the question is, could we see it reach some of these levels again? Well, I like to look at some of the other companies in the industry. Let's take a look over here at QBTS, for example. QBTS had the same pattern, except rather than consolidating, continuing to consolidate, we saw it push up to previous highs, these previous highs that we saw in early January. So it made that full swing, and that was a swing of about 150%. Now, you could look at QBTS. You could also take a look maybe over at what's the other one that's kind of popping right now is it IONQ is in the same position. It's starting to build momentum, but you don't see them recover to the previous highs. Another one that did recover though and started to here was ARQQ. So why is this important when looking at Rigetti? Well, let's say that Rigetti has some momentum and it does have a recovery that would be, let's say, emulative of that of QBTS. That would be 130% increase. Now you might say, well, that's highly speculative. How could you say that? Why would that make any sense? Well, let's take a look at some of the technical indicators and then we'll jump into some of the financials as well as the news. This is what I'm looking at here. Get down to the 1 hour time frame. You can start to see that there is this level that is being developed. It's actually started back here from the crash. You can see right there. So it's starting to, bounce, starting to trend a little bit upward. By no means is this a hyper bullish trend. It's just increasing by week over week about 10 to 20% that we've seen. Now, if this trend is going to continue, then we'll have to see it bounce up here into this $9.70 range. Right now it's at $9. And if that happens, there's a couple reasons that's a key level. Couple reasons. We go back here, you see this previous resistance right here. So this is at $9.70. Then you have a support there, support. You see that? Support and resistance. This level is also acting as a resistance. So why is this important? Well, if we're looking at this $9.70 range as a resistance that's notoriously not only bounced at, but oftentimes that previous resistance will act as a support. We're seeing if it breaks up above this 970 range, we'd start to see a continuation of this trend that's starting to develop. That's a little harder to identify. But if you look at it like that, and let's say we make this one a little less obvious and make it kind of like that, let's say, then this break above here would continue this trend up to $11.20. So this is what we're watching with Rigetti. Of course, we could see it sell down maybe even to $8 before making this move. But I would imagine if we see this break, it's above that 200-day moving average. We started to see it push up above the EMA, that blue line that oftentimes acts as a support if it's bullish or acts as resistance if it's bearish, but we see it acting bullish there. Then this would kind of be the move that we'd be looking for. Now, I'm going to be watching it quite closely. We start to see the RSI, start to see the MACD in a position that could make sense for this. So take a look as we zoom out a little bit. See this RSI here is looking pretty overbought there, and then it sold down, and now it's starting to reverse a little bit. MACD also looking more oversold there. So the risk seems a little bit less than what you might expect on a trade for Rigetti. And the upside, if this trend, let's say this little trend breaks out, of course we could see previous highs, but we need serious catalysts for something like that to happen. Now you might say, have you seen, Will, all of the news with Rigetti? I'm not seeing any crazy stuff happen. You're right. There's nothing that's come out in the last week that's going to put us in a position where we're like, Rigetti's going to break out with their quantum computer. But we have seen them make some sales of their quantum computers. We have seen them improve their fidelity of their qubits, and their partnerships with NASA or MIT or Amazon and Microsoft are key partnerships that will put them in a position to potentially be bought out, right? If we see them getting usage here on AWS, where people are using the computers through the cloud, that would give them a lot of momentum here in the near future. So outside of the news there, you could also go over to their website. We're not going to look at any hype articles. There are a lot of them. But if you go to investors here, you could see some of their recent news releases. They haven't had any big releases come out recently, but they have had some partnerships that are worth looking at, like this Quanta computer partnership. This is a Fortune 500 company, okay? And they just partnered with them, investing more than $100 million in quantum computing over the next 5 years. So that means they got some more runway, some more cash. If you do the math, $100 million, well, let's just do this. 5 times 4 is 20, I know that. And then $100 million divided by 20, that's, what is that, 5 million? There you go. $5 million a quarter for research and development that they've secured to be able to invest. Okay, so if they're investing now and they got this extra money to be able to put into their research and development, that'll put them in a good position to continue to run. And also, if you take a look at their Rigetti stock earnings, nothing crazy in financials. We've seen their net income. It was improving quarter over quarter. You saw all green, things starting to look better. And then shaboom, they had a lot of spend in net income in quarter 4. That put them in the red. They're making revenue, and their revenues are holding around 2 to 3 million. But let's see if they get any big contracts coming out. And a lot of investors are talking about it. We want to stay away from that. We just want to look at the cold hard facts. Let's see if this usage in AWS starts to kick in. They started getting a lot more views for their usage on in the cloud from these big tech companies that could impact their revenue next quarter. But nevertheless, we'll be trading this move and hoping that, not hoping, I would say, but identifying and monitoring it to see if we get confirmation that it is going to make this swing, and potentially we'll be buying at market open tomorrow in our live session. If you guys want to watch me trade live at market open, it's the second link in the description to join StockMate. I would love to have you there. We go live every morning at market open, and we also share new releases. We got excited earnings here with all of our targets that we do each week, along with the different companies that are reporting earnings there as well. So if you ever want to watch me trade live, it's that second link in the description. We got a huge sale there right now. Would love to see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.